What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome to another FPL video. Today it's the Game Week 31 preview. This feels like a game week we've been speaking about for weeks and weeks and weeks, even before Christmas. But it's finally upon us. I know a lot of people have already planned. I'm not going to go through things like chip strategy at this point because I feel like if you've not already got that nailed down, then it's not too late, but it's probably a lot of already good content out there to discuss that. And this is about which players you bring in this week at this point. I'm going to quickly go through Game Week 30. Another pretty good week for me, 69 points. Didn't have Sterling. Obviously, he was an amazing differential. If you owned him, if you captained him, then even better. 42 points for a Sterling captain, which was amazing. But I still got a green arrow with 69 points. I was up about 22k, I think. I got about 24k. Sorry, I got a 6,000 green arrow, taking me just outside the top 18k. So it's been a really good couple of weeks for me, or a really good few weeks. 26 points overall. Attacking points all round. This is the first time I actually checked, the first time this season that every single one of my attackers has returned. Obviously, Salah and Aguero, I was expecting more than just an assist and 5 points, but Jimenez, again, legend. Can't talk enough about how good Raul Jimenez has been this year. Rondon was really nice as well. Getting a bit worried about him because obviously Barnes scored the week before, and I got Rondon in because of the fixtures. Obviously, Barnes had Liverpool this week, and Burnley did get 2 goals, but nothing for him. So Rondon with 11 points over the last 3 weeks has done slightly better than Barnes, only 3 or 4 points in it, but still, glad I went for that move, and hopefully that continues into Game Week 31. Hazard with a nice 10 points in the same game as Jimenez, scoring at the death. And then Man United luck over, maybe. Obviously lost 2-0 to Arsenal. A lot of people kept Pogba and Rashford, probably now looking to get rid, which I don't think is the worst idea, even if you've got a bit of money locked up in them, especially if you've got a free hit and wild card, because you can look at bringing them back on those. And Spurs slipped up as well. They lost again. It's really not looking good for them at the moment. When the double game week comes, if Spurs get a decent game week, double game week in that, we'll have to look at their players. But right now, Kane's a lot of money. I'm not too impressed with how Spurs are doing overall. So not too much to think about with them right now, but definitely for the future. And then I've already spoken about some of these players, but a lot of players put in a really good audition for the blanks if you're thinking about bringing them in. Mane did really well. If you've not already tripled up on Liverpool, you might now go for him instead of double defence. Hazard did really well, and Rondon, who I spoke about. And then Fraser and Wilson back in the side. Bournemouth looked good. 1-2-0. Both of them were involved with both goals, so an assist and a goal apiece, which was really nice. And Jamie Vardy, who I've not mentioned, 16 points. It was against Fulham. They probably won't get an easier game than that all season, but still a decent result. So yeah, let's take a look at the blank game. We can talk about the players we might want to look at bringing in. So in this preview, I'm mostly going to talk about the players from each different team and the options that we might want to think about. There's not going to be too many stats, I don't think, in this video. We're going to take more a look at the fixtures and the options that are there, and who you might want to look at bringing in or not. And then just a couple of things to get out of the way first before we kind of go team by team, which I've seen people talking about. So hits is one. I'm someone who quite likes hits in general, especially in blank game weeks. And this week, I think, is different to other seasons because you're not just taking this week into account. For a lot of people, if you're on a free hit Game Week 32 strategy, you're also taking in Game Week 33 into account as well. So if you bring in a player that's going to play in 31 and 33, if you just assume they're going to get at least 2 appearance points in each game, and obviously yellow cards, own goals and things like that can come into it, but you'd hope that most players will get you at least 2 points in each game, then that's 4 points. So if you take out someone that's not going to play in either of those game weeks, then they've repaid that hit before they get any kind of attacking or defensive return. So for me, if you're looking at it like that, then I'm all for hits. Now, there are some players, for example, Newcastle players that play in 31, they're not 33, so I wouldn't necessarily looking to be taking hits for them. And then there's players like Wan-Bissaka who don't have a fixture this week, but they might have one in Game Week 33, depending on how the FA Cup results go. So I wouldn't necessarily be as up for taking a hit for him necessarily. But again, if you're bringing in a player who plays twice, and you don't want to take the risk that Wan-Bissaka gets benched again in Game Week 33 because he doesn't have a fixture, then you could definitely look at doing that. Most of the time, I won't sell a player that's got a fixture in this week, even if there's someone like Schindler from Huddersfield, who I'm not expecting any points from. But for example, Punchin, who I'm not expecting to play, I would look at taking him out for a better option for a -4. So hits for me are a yes for definite. And I mostly wouldn't sell players that are going to play, even if they're not necessarily the best option. So it all depends who you can bring in and what kind of money you've got. Looking at it kind of more team by team, there's 3 teams who I probably wouldn't go for any players. to bring in this week. So Huddersfield, Fulham and Everton. Now, I'm not saying if you've got their players you need to sell. Obviously, like I said, I'm keeping Schindler, not selling Puncheon. If I had Lucas Dean or Sigurdsson or someone like that, I probably wouldn't sell them from Everton. But when we're talking about bringing players in this week, I wouldn't be going for any of these. So Huddersfield, I just can't name you a player who I think will get good points, and the fixtures are quite tough. West Ham away, Leicester at home. Next, Fulham might not even have a game in Game Week 33. The Game Week 31 fixture is Liverpool. No go. And they look awful. They look down and out. I don't see many goals coming from them, and they're definitely going to concede. So, I think they're probably looking likely to be relegated this season. We'll see if they can pull it out of the bag. But wouldn't be going for any players from Fulham. And then Everton, the problem there is, you've got the likes of Lucas Dean, who's done all right recently, and Sigurdsson on his day is really good too. But Chelsea at home and Arsenal at home, they're not fixtures that you want to be bringing in, I don't think. I think there's other teams with better options and better fixtures. So Everton is just kind of the wrong time to buy their players. Like I say, would definitely keep if I had them. Richarlison too, obviously got his goal at the weekend, but I wouldn't look to be bringing them in. So let's talk about the teams where there are some good options and you might want to bring them in. So Bournemouth on the up. We've seen them now got their 4 main attackers back: King, Wilson, Brooks and Fraser. They won 2-0 against Huddersfield as away from home. Wilson and Fraser both involved in both those goals, so assist and a goal, like I already said. So looking at their other options, so Wilson versus King has come up a lot. And I did say I don't know if I said it in previews, but I definitely talked about it on stream, that when Wilson and King play together, Wilson is the main man. Now, if you look at the stats for that game at the weekend, they're quite similar. And in fact, King is probably slightly better. But it was still Wilson that came away with the points. He's still the central kind of main man up front. And I think if I was bringing in one of those two this week, it would definitely be Wilson for me. They've got Newcastle at home and Burnley at home. So pretty good fixtures for attacking points. Defensive-wise, yes, Bournemouth have done okay this year, but I still think if you look at the attack of Burnley, they've got Barnes. They've just scored 2 against Liverpool. I think they can get a goal against Bournemouth. And then Newcastle also 3 goals at the weekend, albeit against Everton. Rondon and Perez getting involved there. So I think there's goals in their opposition. So it would put me off their defenders. And when you think most people are going to go for at least 1 Liverpool defender, maybe 2, potentially a Chelsea defender, maybe you've already got Leicester defenders, etc. I don't think I'd be looking at bringing in a Bournemouth defender as a kind of priority right now. And then in midfield, you've got Fraser and Brooks. Obviously, Fraser got the points, so he's now the one in favour, and probably the one that I'm looking at. The only thing that puts me off Brooks now is he's just come back from injury, and he had to go off with fatigue. Now, I appreciate that's not an injury. He'd probably play the next game, but the fact that he's a bit fatigued, obviously, sounds to me like he's not properly come back into full fitness, like he's come back into the team too early, and so you might have to build that up. So that would worry me, especially when you don't want to be using too many transfers around this period. So as knee-jerk as it sounds, because they've just got all the points, I think Wilson and Fraser look like the 2 from Bournemouth for me in attack. Newcastle, like I've already mentioned a few times, Game Week 33 worries. I like Rondon, I've got him. Perez obviously did well as well. But ultimately, if you're looking at Rondon, then Barnes and Wilson are a similar price, and they've definitely got 2 fixtures, whereas Rondon might not have. So I might have made a mistake getting him, but we'll wait and see what happens in the FA Cup with Newcastle. Barnes, for example, has Leicester at home and Bournemouth away, so I think I'd rather plump for him over Rondon at the moment. Then looking at Burnley, I'm not convinced, apart from Ashley Barnes, there's too many options there. Defensively, I just think there's better options for Game Week 31 and 33. I'm not saying Burnley are a complete no-go. Like I said, they've got Leicester at home, Bournemouth away. But I would expect Bournemouth to score in that game. And then Leicester have obviously got Vardy in good form. New manager bounce happening. They just scored 3 goals against Fulham. Yes, it was Fulham. But Burnley, although they did quite well earlier on into 2019, they have been conceding a lot of goals recently. So I wouldn't be looking to bring their defenders in. But again, attack-wise, Barnes looks good. Midfield, I just think is a bit of a no-go. You're not too sure who's going to be in the points, even who's going to be starting. So Burnley are kind of a no for me. But then getting to more of the teams that we're probably looking at players from. So Leicester, their defence would worry me. They probably should have had a clean sheet against Fulham. It was kind of a nothing ball almost out to the channel, to Ayite. And Chilwell just didn't really go for it, and 80 got in. And to be fair, he was very composed when he got in. And like I said earlier, Mitrovic had that good header chance as well. But ultimately, I just think they've conceded again, Leicester. I wouldn't be bringing their defenders in. I know it sounds like I'm saying I wouldn't bring any defenders in. But I think if you look at kind of West Ham, who have not actually got written up here, they've got Huddersfield at home, which is a really nice fixture. But and obviously we've got Liverpool and Chelsea to consider as well. So for me, Leicester, and actually you've already got them. If you've got Ricardo, if you've got Maguire, if you've got Chilwell, I would definitely keep them. But they don't look like a defence to bring in for me. Attack-wise though, very different. Vardy in great form. Suddenly looks like one of the best options up front this week. Was very impressed with how they played against Fulham. Again, I don't want to keep saying this. It is only Fulham. But I think we've got to take that into consideration. But yeah, they won the ball back quite high up top. They were pressing Fulham. When they won it back, the initial instinct was bam, let's play it to Vardy. And it worked pretty well. He got in behind quite a few times. So I quite like Vardy as an option. And Maddison was the one playing a lot of those balls. So he looks good too. If you're looking at other options, you've got Tielemans, who kind of goes forward a bit compared to Ndidi, who kind of sticks back. And we've already seen him have a few assists as well. So maybe there's a very good differential. He could be an option. I've got Barnes, and I was quite impressed with him at the weekend. I thought he played quite well. He had a couple of shots which Rico saved really nicely. So could have been in the points more. I think I really need to come up with a better word than safe or boring. But I think Maddison is kind of the safe pick. You know he's going to start. He's probably going to be in the points because he's kind of central to all their play. He's going to be assisting Vardy, who we know is a really good finisher. But Barnes, I just think, is a bit more exciting. He goes on these dribbles around the box, does like to take a shot, got good expected goals, high amount of penalty area touches, good amount of shots as well. And I just think if someone's going to get a double figure haul between him and Maddison, I don't know, I feel like Barnes is probably the higher one, but Maddison's going to tick over for sure. So they're the kind of two I like. Tielemans I like as well, but I just think that those two are slightly better options. And Vardy up front looks like a really good option. A lot of people looking at Vardy or Higuain. Now, I actually think Leicester's fixtures are not quite as good as Higuain's, because Higuain's got Everton away and West Ham at home. So two teams with not a lot to play for, who have been shipping goals as well, and have basically struggled for clean sheets. Everton, to be fair, had pretty good defensive stats recently, but they just shipped 3 to Newcastle, and I wouldn't trust them that much. So Leicester probably not quite as good fixtures, but Vardy in very good form and on penalty. So I think he looks like the winner between him and Higuain. I think if you want a Chelsea attacker, then it's got to be Hazard. And while we're talking about Chelsea, I think defensively, I think they could still be a good option. Everton away, West Ham at home. I think that's okay for a defender. Would I double up? I'm not sure. I've gone for David Luiz. I don't think there's a lot in their defenders, to be honest. It looks like Emerson's got his place ahead of Alonso, but I'm not sure he offers enough attacking-wise to take the punt on him just in case Alonso comes back. So I'd be looking at Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and David Luiz, and I don't think there's much between Azpilicueta and the other two. So I just went for David Luiz. Sometimes takes free kicks, got a very good pass, potential assists from open play opportunity, sometimes on free kicks and also up in the box for corners and stuff. So he was the one I went for. There really isn't much in it, but I do like a Chelsea defender for the blank game week 31 and 33, and maybe even a double up if you're feeling really punty. And then I've put, Bournemouth attack is back. I've already spoken about that, and that's meant to be West Ham. Obviously, their attack isn't back. But looking at options from there, I think they're a bit risky because Felipe Anderson's just come off early, is in an awful form. Arnautovic hasn't started, but then came on and did okay. But Chicharito has been in kind of favour there. So my gut tells me that Arnautovic will start the next game, and Huddersfield at home could be a really nice differential because a lot of people aren't looking at him, especially if they're not on free hits and stuff. If you're on a free hit, you can get him in and have a bench player backing you up. If you're not me, then it's a bit of a risk bringing him in just in case he doesn't start. I do think he will. I just don't think I'm not 100% sure, so I can't. Unless we get news beforehand, I just couldn't bring him in. So I do think attack-wise they're a bit risky. And defensively, I just don't know how to work out West Ham. I've had Fabianski for ages, hardly any clean sheets. That's not necessarily a good thing at all for a defensive option. And Huddersfield at home, you'd think that's a clean sheet, but I would not be surprised if they concede. So I think if I was on a free hit, I quite like the idea of double West Ham defence and just punt and go for it. But at the same time, if Huddersfield score, would you be that surprised? So it is a little bit risky to go double defence. But I think Declan Rice, Fabianski are probably the options there at the moment. And attack-wise, like I say, Lanzini is being touted as an option. I'm just not sure there's enough points in that right now. When I watched him the other day, he was quite deep. And I prefer Arnautovic if he's going to start. But ultimately, I don't think I can really go with West Ham, sorry. And then Liverpool, obviously, triple up is a must. If you're not already on it, well, not a mistake, but you could have easily been on triple Liverpool for a while now. Whether you go Mane or double defence, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. I've had Mane, really good last week. Obviously, Liverpool conceded. They don't concede too many goals. I wouldn't expect them to concede against Fulham, but it is an away game. Maybe that will help Fulham a little bit, and obviously Fulham are going to be fighting for their life. And Mane's been in pretty good form, and Fulham are very good at shipping goals. So I've got to be honest, now we've actually got to this point, I'm quite happy to have the double attack. I'm not really missing the double defence for this week. So if it was me and I was free hitting this week, I'd probably go for Salah and Mane, or Mane and Firmino, whichever way you want to go for it. And just go for one Liverpool defender and just maybe hope that Fulham score, but your defender's the one that gets the attack and returns. But Mane's looking in really good form. He's playing a little bit more centrally, although Firmino's back now, so he might be slightly further out left, but he is shooting in nice positions compared to Salah, so he looks like a really good option. And kind of that brings us nicely onto captaincy. And I've got to be honest, I can't look past that Liverpool-Fulham game. Anyone else, and it might be a different conversation, but Fulham have just been that bad this season and shipped that many goals that it has to be between one of those two, Salah or Mane for me. Arguably, Firmino's just scored 2 goals. You could look at him too, but I don't know. I think when it's this close, you go for the midfielder, get the extra point for a goal, get the extra point for the clean sheet, and then hope for the best. Now, between Salah and Mane, I am really struggling. I don't want to sit on the fence. I've got it on Mane right now because he's been in really good form. He's shooting in better positions. He's had more shots in the box than Salah recently. Salah will always beat him on touches in the box. Salah beats pretty much everyone for that. But when you look at his shot position on someone like Fantasy Football Scout, Mane is shooting much closer to goal, which is more likely to result in a goal. And we've seen that recently. Salah's hardly any goals. Now, he's not been playing badly the last couple of weeks, and he's been getting in the mix. Obviously got an assist at the weekend. Potentially should have had more returns with the way he played. And there is ownership to take into consideration. He will be the most captain this week, and if he goes nuts and you don't captain him, and you go for Mane and he blanks, then it will be a big rank swing. And I don't like playing the game like that, and I haven't captained him for 3 weeks, Salah. So I'm not hugely concerned about about his ownership. More that I just don't think he was going to get points compared to my other players. But in a single match against Fulham, I just think that anyone can get attacking returns, and why not back to being Salah? He's going to be the furthest one forward, and like I said in the Leicester game, they won the ball back by pressing so much. Liverpool will try and do that too, and they quickly release Vardy, and it's going to be the man on the shoulder of the last defender for Liverpool, and that will probably be Salah. So I'm pretty tempted to switch it back. But if I'm completely honest with you, I really don't have 100% reason either way to go for which one. I think Mane's in form. Salah has been playing well but not getting the points. Maybe a bit rusty in front of goal, I don't know. But I expect gut or fear or whatever it is tells me that he's going to do well. So let me know in the comments below what you think between Salah and Mane. I got a feeling I know which way the comments will go, but I'd still be interested to hear. If I look at differentials outside of those two or outside of that game, then Hazard and Wilson are the ones that stick out. I really do think Bournemouth will do well against Newcastle. And Everton have just conceded 3 to Newcastle, like I said. So I'd expect Chelsea to get something. Hazard's usually involved and on penalties, but I appreciate people have been burnt by Hazard before. So Mane or Salah, definitely my favourites. I'm currently on Mane. If I'm honest, I reckon I'll probably switch to Salah by the end of the week. And I think Wilson, maybe even Vardy or Everton as outside bets. Hazard against Everton as outside bets. And then looking at my plans, I'm going to go Aguero to Vardy or Wilson. Probably Vardy, but we'll see by the end of the week. And then I'm going to take Punching out for a -4 because I just don't think he's going to play, which is as good as blanking for me. And I'm going to get Fraser in. I think Fraser's an obvious pick, and I think if I was on a free hit, then Salah, Mane, Hazard, and Fraser is the obvious 4 in midfield. And then if you want a fifth, someone like Barnes, but I think most people will go Wilson, Vardy, and maybe Higuain up front, and then a Liverpool defender and Chelsea defender plus one other. and Fabianski. I think the free hit team, if you've saved it for this week, it looks quite obvious the way to go. I think there's only a few players slight difference. But yeah, really happy with my team. Vardy or Wilson to come in, plus Fraser, -4. And that'll be me for this week. Mane captain, maybe, probably Salah. And fingers crossed it's a good one. And then next week, we can finally start talking about free hit teams once the double game weeks have been confirmed. So I'm going to leave it there. That was probably a long one. Hopefully I didn't waffle on too long. You might have loads of questions. If you do, leave a comment below. Leave a like on the video as well if you enjoyed it. Much appreciated as always. And subscribe if you're new around here. Let me know what I've said, whether I've talked rubbish, talked good, whether there's anything you agree with or you don't. Let me know in the comments below and I'll try and get back to as many as I can. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe. All of that good stuff. Cheers all.